The Humber Hawk looked like just another conservative British saloon. But beneath its dignified styling was a car that quietly outclassed many of its rivals in comfort, engineering, and refinement. Over 150,000 Humber Hawks were built across several generations, serving families, executives, government officials, and export markets around the world. Yet today, it has almost vanished from public memory. By the end of this story, you'll discover why one of Britain's smartest post-war cars disappeared despite doing so many things better than the competition. When the Second World War ended, Britain faced an enormous challenge. Factories that had been producing military equipment suddenly had to build civilian cars again. Materials were scarce, money was tight, and buyers simply wanted reliable transport. Most manufacturers rushed to restart production using familiar pre-war designs. Humber did exactly that with the Hawk introduced in 1945, but there was a reason behind the decision. Rather than gamble on an expensive all-new model, the company refined an already respected design. It may not have looked revolutionary, but it delivered something buyers desperately wanted: dependable, comfortable motoring during uncertain times. Thousands of families and professionals trusted the Hawk because it felt reassuringly familiar. That conservative approach helped the company recover quickly in the difficult years after the war. But here is the surprising part. While many people remember the Humber Hawk as a slow and traditional car, it quietly introduced levels of comfort that many competitors struggled to match. Humber had built its reputation on producing refined vehicles for doctors, lawyers, businessmen, and government officials rather than racing drivers. Step inside a Hawk, and you found generous seating, excellent visibility, and a cabin designed for long-distance travel instead of short commutes. The suspension was tuned for smoothness rather than sporty handling, allowing passengers to glide over rough British roads that were still recovering from wartime damage. Imagine sitting behind the wheel on a rainy evening in the early 1950s. Instead of fighting every bump, you simply settled into the journey. That quiet confidence became one of the Hawk's greatest strengths, even if it never grabbed newspaper headlines. What most people never realized was that the Humber Hawk became more advanced as the years passed without attracting much attention for it. In 1957, the all-new Series I Hawk arrived with modern unitary construction, replacing the older body-on-frame layout. That change reduced weight, improved rigidity, and gave the car better road manners. Many buyers never noticed the engineering underneath because the Hawk still looked elegant and restrained. Humber chose evolution over flashy styling, believing loyal customers valued quality more than fashion. The result was a car that felt remarkably solid for its time. Owners appreciated the tighter handling, quieter cabin, and improved ride, even if the improvements remained largely invisible from the outside. Once you know this, you cannot unsee it. Sometimes the biggest engineering leaps happen where nobody is looking. The engine tells another fascinating story. Throughout much of its life, the Hawk relied on variations of Roots Group's dependable overhead valve four-cylinder engine. On paper, it never appeared particularly exciting. Competitors often advertised higher horsepower figures or faster acceleration. Yet Humber engineers focused on smoothness, reliability, and usable performance instead of outright speed. As the years went by, engine capacity gradually increased to improve flexibility and effortless cruising. Drivers could comfortably cover long distances without constantly changing gears or pushing the engine hard. For many owners, that mattered far more than winning a traffic light race. The Hawk was designed to make every journey feel relaxed, and thousands of loyal customers appreciated exactly that philosophy. Then came one of the Hawk's most underrated achievements. In 1960, Humber introduced a version fitted with a Borg-Warner automatic transmission, something still relatively uncommon in Britain at the time. Today, automatic gearboxes seem ordinary, but in the early 1960s they represented genuine luxury. Most British motorists still shifted gears manually every few seconds in busy traffic. Humber saw the future differently. By offering an automatic option, the company aimed to give drivers a smoother, more effortless experience, especially those who spent long hours behind the wheel. For executives and professional drivers, it transformed daily commuting into something far less tiring. It was another example of the Hawk quietly adopting features that many mainstream rivals would embrace only years later. Another little-known chapter of the Humber Hawk story stretches far beyond Britain itself. Roots understood that the home market alone could not guarantee long-term success, so the Hawk was exported to countries across the Commonwealth and beyond. Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and several other markets welcomed the car for its combination of durability and comfort. In places with long rural roads, owners valued its relaxed cruising ability and spacious interior. Some cars even found their way into government fleets and official service because they projected quiet dignity without unnecessary extravagance. Unlike glamorous sports cars that attracted attention wherever they went, the Hawk earned respect by simply doing its job exceptionally well. It became the dependable companion people rarely talked about but deeply appreciated. There is another reason the Hawk developed such a loyal following. Humber deliberately positioned the car between ordinary family saloons and expensive luxury machines. Buyers who could not justify the price of a Jaguar or a Rover still wanted refinement, comfort, and prestige. The Hawk filled that gap almost perfectly. Its styling carried a sense of quiet confidence rather than bold ambition. Chrome trim was tasteful instead of excessive. The interior felt welcoming rather than extravagant. You were buying a car that suggested success without shouting about it. That balance appealed to professionals who valued substance over show. Even today, surviving examples still capture that understated British elegance that has become increasingly rare. But despite all these strengths, the Hawk faced a problem that engineering alone could not solve. The British car market was changing rapidly during the 1960s. Buyers increasingly wanted sharper styling, higher performance, and more modern image. New rivals from Ford, Vauxhall, and overseas manufacturers offered fresher designs at competitive prices. At the same time, the Roots Group itself faced mounting financial difficulties. Developing completely new models required enormous investment, and the company struggled to keep pace with larger international competitors. The Hawk continued to evolve, but its basic character remained conservative in an era when customers increasingly wanted excitement as well as comfort. The qualities that had made the Hawk successful after the war slowly became obstacles in a market hungry for change. The company's ownership changes only accelerated that decline. Financial pressures eventually led Chrysler Corporation to acquire a controlling interest in the Roots Group during the mid-1960s. Corporate priorities shifted, product planning changed, and several long-established British marques gradually lost their distinct identities. The Humber brand itself began to fade as Chrysler focused on simplifying its model range. Production of the Hawk ended in 1967, bringing more than 2 decades of continuous service to a close. It was not because the car had suddenly become unreliable or poorly engineered. Instead, it became a victim of changing tastes, financial realities, and a rapidly evolving automotive industry. Sometimes even excellent cars cannot survive when the company behind them struggles to adapt. Perhaps that is why the Humber Hawk deserves far more recognition today than it usually receives. It never chased speed records. It never dominated race circuits. It never relied on dramatic styling to attract buyers. Instead, it focused on qualities that mattered every single day: comfort, durability, refinement, and quiet confidence. It anticipated features like automatic transmission for mainstream buyers, adopted modern construction techniques, built a reputation across international markets, and gave thousands of owners dependable service during Britain's remarkable post-war recovery. Those achievements may not create dramatic headlines, but they reveal a car that consistently put its drivers first. Looking back now, the Humber Hawk represents something that feels increasingly uncommon in today's automotive world. It was built with patience rather than urgency, with refinement rather than flash, and with the belief that true quality did not need to shout. That philosophy earned it loyal owners for more than 20 years, even if history has allowed its story to fade into the background. So perhaps the real mystery is not why the Humber Hawk disappeared, but why so few people remember how remarkably well it served the people who owned it. If you've ever driven, ridden in, or even admired a Humber Hawk, what memories does it bring back? Share your story in the comments below, And if you know someone who appreciates forgotten British classics, this is one piece of automotive history well worth passing along.